Welcome to the San Diego Business Journal's Community of Business podcast, covering all of the vibrant business activity in the greater San Diego metropolitan area. And now, here are your hosts, Kevin Leet, publisher, and Jeff Clemetson, editor-in-chief.
Welcome to the Community of Business podcast. I'm Jeff Clemetson, and today we are joined by CTO and AI Lead for Synoptek, Jay Cann. Welcome, Jay.
Great. Thanks for having me, Jeff.
No problem. So for our listeners and readers that don't know much about Synoptek, why don't you explain what it is that Synoptek does?
Yeah, so Synoptek is a managed service provider, and we're a full-service shop. We service mostly the mid-market. We're based out of California, but we have offices all over the world and a large development center offshore. And we mostly partner with organizations daily to streamline IT, modernize securely, and keep experiences reliable for employees and customers.
And so there's a lot of changes in the way technology is working for businesses right now. What are some of the main issues that you see that businesses need from technology companies and management companies like yourself? Yeah,
so honestly, one of the biggest opportunities and pressures that leaders are wrestling with today is cost optimization, and not the slash and burn approach that slows teams down, but the strategic kind, that trims waste and frees up budget for innovation. That's the goal.
Wow. And so what are some of the biggest challenges businesses face when trying to manage IT costs?
Yeah, so if you look across industries, tech intensity has exploded. There's multi-cloud footprints, there's SaaS everywhere, data platforms, AI pilots, hybrid work infrastructure. I mean, the list goes on. But that complexity has a cost. And it shows up in duplicate tools, inconsistent processes, there's higher risk and slower decision cycles. So we've all experienced that. And we often describe this as technology sprawl. So that's an overgrowth of systems, applications, vendors that get really hard to manage and really expensive to maintain. Teams adopt new solutions to solve real problems, but over time, you get a lot of overlapping capabilities, fragmented data, inconsistent governance, huge problem. So the results ends up being a higher run rate for IT and ironically a lot less agility. So strategic cost optimization means aligning every dollar with an outcome, customer experience, revenue enablement, operational resilience, and compliance. But you add in some external pressures like macroeconomic uncertainty is a big one today. Rising cyber threats with increased sophistication, particularly in a world of AI with much broader attack surface, skill gaps. So leaders really need to maintain cost discipline without losing momentum. So the goal, as with all this always, has been to minimize a total cost of ownership while increasing return on investment. And those are very difficult to do in balance. But when you optimize costs, the goal is you're not just saving money. You're creating financial flexibility, and it's a flexibility that allows companies to reinvest in innovation and stay competitive in a world where markets are changing pretty much almost overnight these days. And so when done well, that cost optimization will fund the next wave of transformation instead of starving it.
And so then what should business leaders be looking at? What are the kind of drivers of cost that you're seeing, and what are those downstream effects?
Yeah, so there's a number of hurdles that organizations face, and they're often interconnected. So the first is choice overload and misalignment. I mean, with thousands of SaaS platforms and cloud offerings, and there's so much out there that businesses can easily adopt tools that look really good on paper, but may not integrate well or provide any real ROI. And over time, the endless tools and the unclear standards and the ad hoc adoption creates layers and layers of technology debt. And then there's the cloud, right? So moving to the cloud is almost unavoidable these days, but without a clear strategy, you're going to get some cloud cost creep. So doing a lift and shift, taking it from on-premise to cloud without right-sizing it first, or auto-scaling without guardrails, neglected storage or test environments. That's huge. Those get out of control very, very quickly without proper governance. So companies frequently overspend by paying for resources they don't need and failing to optimize, their storage and compute. So if you've ever dealt with it before, that cloud bills can balloon really quickly if they're not actively monitored. Another challenge is fragmentation. A lot of organizations have siloed IT environments, and different departments are buying and managing their own tools without any kind of central oversight. You end up with a lot of duplicate licenses, inconsistent security protocols, a huge lack of shared data, and all of that drives up costs. And ultimately, you're going to have to get a handle on that at some point in the future. You're just kind of pushing that debt down the road. And of course, there's cybersecurity and talent shortages. Breaches are really costly, and there's a somewhat of a lack of skilled IT pros these days to make it really hard for companies to implement like the right protections. So you combine that with the need for 24/7 support, and a lot of organizations find themselves kind of overextended. So the downstream effects really are that you get a longer time to resolve incidents, slower change velocity, huge budget surprises, which nobody loves, especially in the cloud. And teams spend more time firefighting and less time improving customer experience. So that tool sprawl really also, as I mentioned, increases your attack surface, which raises cyber insurance and compliance costs.
Wow. And I imagine you guys are getting deep into AI and AI-enabled management services. And how do those help businesses?
Yeah, so we like to say AI is the hammer and everything's a nail right now. So everybody's looking for use cases to use AI. It's clearly in everybody's consciousness at the moment. But there are some really great practical purposes and practical uses for AI, particularly in the managed service area. So if you think of a managed service provider as a control tower for your technology estate, standardizing the way work is done, automating routine stuff, and using data to steer proactively, AI can help amplify kind of at each of those layers. So for example, with AI managed services, you can offer ways to simplify complexity and reduce costs by, for example, becoming a force multiplier. So with automation can take over repetitive tasks, patch management, incident resolution, system monitoring, tasks that normally eat up a lot of staff time, and increase the chance of human error. So predictive analytics powered by AI use patterns and telemetry to anticipate incidents and capacities before they're visible to people. The AIs are really good at teasing out those very subtle patterns that are very difficult sometimes for humans to grasp, particularly in a sea of data and a lot of noise. So, by using AI, leveraging AI for that, that not only avoids costly downtime, but it helps, organizations allocate resources more intelligently. But perhaps more importantly, AI-enabled managed services bring consistency. With 24/7 monitoring and AI-driven insights, we can really take a proactive approach to IT instead of a reactive one. And that's always been the goal. Everybody wants to get more proactive about it instead of waiting for problems to arise. Really anticipate those issues and resolve them before they ever even happen. That's the ideal. To create resilience and save money and allow internal teams to redirect their focus towards innovation and customer experience. Again, so this combination improves service quality while doing things like reducing the cost per ticket, the cost per user, the cost per workload, and giving leaders reporting they need, real-time views of spending and performance and risk. So prediction lets you manage by leading indicators instead of lagging ones. And when you remove noise and standardize execution, you unlock capacity in your existing teams, and that capacity can be pointed at roadmap items that your customers will feel. And AI has gone a long way to enabling some really, really great predictive analytics and such.
And so then what kind of strategies do businesses use to kind of take advantage of these AI-enabled management solutions?
Yeah, there are about 5 strategies or so we see consistently at Synoptek. The first is, of course, start by consolidating where it makes sense. Create a unified operating model with clear service ownership, shared tooling, consistent SLAs. An MSP can centralize your NOC and SOC functions, and endpoint management, identity governance, all those sorts of things. But you want to do that because you don't want to pay for 5 different versions of the same thing. So that consolidation is going to reduce your vendor count, it's going to tighten security, and more importantly, clarify accountability. So by consolidating a bunch of IT functions and where it makes sense, you're going to eliminate some silos and cut redundancy and make sure that every decision, hopefully ties back to business goals. Second, as I mentioned earlier, the automation and standardization. So like AI-driven automation of routine tasks, ticketing, system updates, monitoring, you're going to save countless hours. And standardization creates consistency and predictability, which also lowers long-term operational costs. Cloud optimization with AI tools, we can analyze cloud usage. We can help companies pinpoint underutilized resources or scale down where appropriate, scale up only where demand justifies it. You want to make sure you're only paying for what you need, because again, costs can get out of control pretty quickly. Fourth thing would be, as I heavily mentioned earlier, is predictive analytics. I mean, instead of looking back at what went wrong, predict by looking ahead. Forecast future needs by spotting inefficiencies now, letting the AI help us do that, and making smarter investments to avoid those costly surprises. And then, of course, the 24/7 monitoring and support. AI doesn't sleep, and AI-backed monitoring makes sure that systems are secure and available and high-performing around the clock. So that level of resilience minimizes downtime, and that's one of the most expensive hidden costs in IT. So these strategies don't just reduce expenses; they give businesses the agility to redirect resources into projects that actually drive growth and transformation.
Wow. And then, so, if you step back and take a broader look, what are the benefits of using these services like Synoptek for a business?
Yeah, so working with an MSP like Synoptek, it goes way beyond cutting costs. It's not just what we're all about, but it's also about turning IT into a true enabler of business strategy. So by offloading operational responsibilities, internal teams can focus on strategic initiatives that differentiate the business. Again, as I keep mentioning these over and over because they're so important. They're so core to most businesses. Product development, customer experience, market expansion. So MSPs like Synoptek provide a speed to value. So we have access to mature runbooks and advanced tools and talent that's otherwise very difficult and expensive to build in-house. So you're essentially sharing cost because we service so many other customers. Another big advantage is financial predictability. With subscription-based models and with this type of outsourcing, what your IT costs are going to be each month. And it makes budgeting much, much more straightforward, and it reduces the risk of unexpected expenses. So at Synoptek, we frame this as a three-part stage: envision, transform, and evolve. Envision aligns technology with business outcomes. Transform standardizes and automates, and evolve keeps things optimized as needs change, because the emphasis isn't just savings, it's reinvestment.
Let's say I'm a business and I just realize I need to get my IT under control. How would a business go about this if starting from the very first point of realizing I need help with my IT?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Call us. No. The starting point, honestly, is always an honest assessment. So organizations, you have to take a step back. You've got to look at your IT environments and look at where are the inefficiencies and where's the overspending, where are the investments misaligned with business goals. So that kind of honest assessment is huge, and it often uncovers hidden costs. And like I mentioned, underused licenses, redundant tools, unnecessary storage. There's a huge number of things you can uncover from that, but you really have to baseline your current state: inventory, apps and licenses, environments, SLAs, cloud spend, all of your costs. And then once you have that, you gotta identify kind of the top five. Start with the top 5 cost levers. Again, usually something like tool consolidation, right sizing, look for automation candidates, license rationalization, huge amount of waste in licenses, and support coverage gaps. And you want to take those and prioritize them by impact and risks. I mean, don't go for long-term right out of the gate. You should have a long-term roadmap, but you really got to choose some 30-day and 90-day wins that don't jeopardize resilience. And you want to do that because you want to build some momentum for the change. And then you need to stand up an operating model. You got to have a standard services catalog, a change cadence, things like tagging policies and dashboards. You have to have an operating model for how this is going to work. And then you got to iterate. You got to review it. You got to review it weekly. You got to review it monthly. Lock in, changes and savings, and redirect budget to, innovation initiatives. And once you have that baseline, that next step is building a roadmap with a trusted partner. And again, at Synoptek, we build by doing, envisioning a future streamlined state, transform, operations using AI, automation, and best practices, and finally evolve continuously to keep pace with change. Because this is not a one-time fix. The journey is not a one-time fix. It's about building a sustainable model that keeps IT aligned with the business needs over the long term. And getting started doesn't have to be intimidating. I mean, even small steps like evaluating cloud spend or automating a handful of routine tasks, some of those low-hanging fruit, can really deliver meaningful savings and build that momentum for larger transformations. And that's often what's needed to get traction within organizations.
And what does the future hold? I mean, what do you see as the future of AI-enabled management and optimization?
Yeah, so I'll start by saying, first off, cost. We've been talking about cost optimization a lot. It's not really about austerity; it's about clarity. And when you standardize how work gets done and you apply AI to it to operate proactively, you're going to reduce a lot of waste and hopefully increase capacity. I mean, that's how IT becomes a growth engine. You want the AI managed services to kind of flip the script by providing predictive insights and proactive support and continuous improvement. And with AI, what's interesting is it's changing so fast, but the models and the capabilities that we have today are so capable. And what we see on the horizon in very short-term windows, the capabilities continue to improve exponentially. We've all seen it in the changes just in the last 2.5 years since GPT made a big splash. So the speed of innovation and the speed of change, the broadening of the capabilities to where we can effectively apply AI to become a force multiplier is increasing. And at the same time, the counter to that is, of course, the attack surface is also increasing. As the models get smarter, ironically, they are more subject to potential security risks. So we have to keep an eye on all of that stuff. But at Synoptek, we're really excited about this future. I mean, we really believe that cost optimization and business transformation aren't separate goals. They're kind of two sides of that same coin. And AI managed services are an effective way to achieve both sustainably and strategically. And we're extremely excited for what's coming.
That's fantastic. You mentioned that the ability of cyber criminals is also enhanced by AI. That is something that I'm sure a lot of our listeners and readers are concerned about, even as they adopt their own AI enabled solutions and technologies in their companies. That is a big threat. How do you look at addressing those threats now?
Yeah, it's interesting because, again, as these models get more capable, the attack surface broadens. So think of it in terms of the ability to scale and enhance cyber attacks. And we've all seen phishing attacks. We're used to getting those fake emails and things. Now imagine someone doing that actually using sophisticated AI to craft and generate those messages. You're going to have much higher quality output, particularly from foreign adversaries that may have struggled before to put together. We've all seen the sometimes hilarious messaging errors that come through things like that. But being able to put together a very sophisticated messaging attack, even things like as advanced as voice cloning. Go to 11 Labs, clone your own voice today. And then see that the capabilities that some of the new technology enables. So that has the ability to bypass certain types of voice printing. There's a lot of work being done in that area to prevent that from happening, or even just to fool people. But even automating, in the past, using call centers to perpetrate scams. Don't need to do that anymore. You can do it programmatically. You can do that with the AI to generate those calls and those conversations and have those at scale. So these are all huge problems. And of course, with AI getting more capable, as I mentioned, tool use is a big thing. So everybody's talking about agentic AI, and we're all interested in connecting to a ton of MCP tools and making our AIs more and more capable. But the more tooling and access that we grant them, the more there's an ability for abuse. And so we have to very, very carefully monitor how we do those things. And there's also, by the way, a pressure and a tendency to move very, very quickly with this technology. The technology is set up to enable that. And sometimes that pressure will make you look to blow past what would be normal governance on something like this. And you really can't do that. We really have to keep the focus on security, on governance, on making sure that the tools are used appropriately, particularly when they hit production.
Well, Jay, thank you once again for your insights into very important topics in today's fast-moving world of AI and IT. I'm Jeff Clemetson, host of the San Diego Business Journal's Community of Business podcast. Once again, our guest was Jay Cann, CTO and AI Lead for Synoptek. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I appreciate it.
This has been a podcast from the San Diego Business Journal, the community of business. Keep watch on the journal's website, sdbj.com, for this and other podcasts, past and future. Copyright San Diego Business Journal, all rights reserved.